Hello, I'm Harold Aasland. My pastoral journey began as a teenager on a farm in northern Minnesota. I heard a voice say, "I want you to be a pastor." I laughed. I made many arguments. After I graduated from high school, I was inducted into the Navy, served 3 years in the Pacific Theater. On my discharge, went back to northern Minnesota. They had a weekend evangelistic series. His sermon was on Jesus telling the disciples that the harvest was plentiful, but the laborers were few. And since the church had a shortage of pastors, he asked us all to pray for pastors. So we all prayed in turn. When it came my turn, I also prayed that God would send more pastors. Back home, I just barely got into bed when I heard the voice, "I want you to be a pastor." I said, "Oh no, I was praying for others, not for myself." He says, "I heard you, go." Well, you don't argue with a voice like that. So I went to Concordia College to prepare to go to seminary. Even though I didn't want to be a pastor, I picked up my books, was just headed out to class, when a heavy hand just shoved me to the floor, and the voice said, "I'm sending you to Japan." What? I spent 3 years fighting the Japanese, and now you send me to Japan? Well, maybe there could be a right side to this. I'd be a missionary, not a pastor. So they says, okay. I was ordained and commissioned at the Church of General Convention in Minneapolis. After a year's language study in Tokyo, I was assigned a small, struggling church in Fuji City, where I learned how to be a pastor the hard way, by myself, speaking Japanese. Spent the next 20 years serving 2 different churches in Wisconsin. Then Ruth and I retired, came down to Tucson, joined Tanque Verde Lutheran Church, and we thought, oh, this is going to be a nice retirement. God says, not so fast, I'm not through with you. I spent the next 17 years conducting worship services at a mobile home park. Then a pastor in southern Wisconsin moved on, settled in at the mobile home park. So now that they had a resident pastor, I turned it over to him. And Ruth and I could again become year-round worshipers at TVLC. But God had other plans. Our assistant pastor accepted a call to another church. The lead pastor asked me to be his assistant. 6 months later, he left the ELCA and I was without a job. So here I am, retired finally, unless God speaks again.